But if you want to keep being a cunt, I'm funnier than you, I'm smarter than you, and I'm better at being a cunt than you.
In a recent appearance on a podcast, Dr. Mike Israetel said something that I agree with, which is that adults make decisions based on careful, rational thought and not based on emotional whims, which is what children do.
My wife and I make it a point to remind ourselves and each other that making decisions based on emotions is what children do. Making decisions based on calm logic is what adults do. If you want your life to unfold like a child's life would unfold, feel free to lean into the emotions. Just do what you feel like.
However, it did strike me as curious that these remarks should come from someone who sacrifices his health for vanity by carrying excessive bulk and abusing dangerous amounts of anabolic androgenic steroids. I'll argue that Mike's decision to carry excessive bulk and abuse drugs is irrational, and that if he's truly interested in being the adult he wants to be, then he should downsize and stop abusing drugs immediately. Rational people make decisions based on cost-benefit analyses. In a cost-benefit analysis, you look at the advantages and disadvantages of any given course of action. If it looks like a given course of action will yield a net benefit, then you go through with it. If it looks like it won't, then you don't. I'll illustrate with an example. Let's say I wanted to eat at the most expensive restaurant in town, despite being quite poor. If I were looking at the benefits alone, then I'd definitely eat there. I'd enjoy a nice meal, impress people by showboating my social status and good taste, and not have to wash the dishes afterwards. However, a rational person also factors in the costs. In this case, there would be a big cost, namely the hit to my wallet. The money I'd spend at this restaurant I could have saved or invested more wisely, which would make me happier in the long run. So it'd be a net cost for me to eat at this very expensive restaurant, since the benefits wouldn't outweigh the costs. Having clarified what a properly done cost-benefit analysis looks like, I'll enumerate the costs and benefits of Mike's juicing, and then argue that he shouldn't do it if he's rational, because it's clearly a net cost. It's well known that Mike Israetel is a pharmaceutically enhanced bodybuilder. He's shared in detail the exogenous hormones and ancillaries he's currently using and has used in the past, including but not limited to test, tren, anavar, masteron, human growth hormone, and insulin.
Like right now, I'm on test, mast, var, and tren, and yeah, I'm not like feeling 100%.
The dosages of these substances are large, and they aren't for therapeutic purposes. They're for the express purpose of cultivating muscular size and success in competitive bodybuilding. Let's start with the potential benefits associated with Mike's juicing and excessive bulk. The first benefit is that Mike might be able to satisfy his bigorexia, or his desire to be, in his words, a freak, enormous, and ripped to shreds.
I want to be a freak. I want to be enormous. I want to be ripped to shreds. And I'm learning all the time more and more how to make that happen. I get better all the time.
Moving on to the second potential benefit, Mike Israetel's drug abuse helps him with his goal of winning a pro card in the International Federation of Bodybuilding, which is an untested federation.
Another thing about pro is, to me, there's a certain magic to it, of a stamp that you have officially arrived. You're in the in-group, the cool kids club, whatever that means. If my best isn't good enough, whatever. Like, I'll just settle for being a, jiu-jitsu killer, famous millionaire, fine. But like, oh man, I want that shit.
The third potential benefit, a benefit which Mike, as far as I know, never talks about, but is unlikely not to have at least crossed his mind, is that juicing probably helps him make money. Because in making him bigger and stronger, it gives him a synthetic kind of credibility. It's a tale as old as time. If you want to get big and strong, then you go to the biggest and strongest guy in the gym to ask how to do it. After all, success leaves clues, and the big strong guy can charge whatever you're willing to pay for his secrets. This ties me into the fourth and final potential benefit, which is that maybe in Mike's view, his drug abuse is altruistic. See, if juicing makes people more interested in what Mike has to say, and what he has to say is good, then maybe Mike's juicing is justifiable. That is, if Mike has to give up his health for his excellent advice to reach that many more people, then that might be a price he's willing to pay. Having outlined the potential benefits of Mike's drug abuse, I'll now outline the costs. The first and most obvious cost of Mike's amateur bodybuilding escapades is the cost to his physical health. Pharmaceutically enhanced competitive bodybuilding is a dangerous affair. Mike admits as much himself. And even when you control for the side effects with measures such as blood pressure medications, statins, and cosmetic surgeries for gynecomastia, it's still dangerous when you're taking as much as Mike is and at such a high BMI. I won't labour this point, other than to say that Mike may not be able to enjoy the riches he's currently earning for very long if he keeps up his enhanced bodybuilding nonsense. The second cost is that, when abused, anabolic androgenic steroids are neurotoxic, especially the 19-nors. That is, they literally make you dumber. And when Mike argues that natural lifters should probably train more than IFBB pro bodybuilders, he clearly needs all the help he can get. Getting off the juice would go a long way toward helping Mike with his brain gains, and might thereby prevent his audience from being misled by more bad advice.
You should probably train more than the pro bodybuilders you follow.
Steroids do reliably make you dumber, by the way.
Yeah.
The third cost, which to Mike's credit he's open about, is that pharmaceutical enhancement wreaks havoc on his mental health. And nothing other than simply playing clips of Mike would do this point more justice.
What do you mean by, if you don't mind me asking, more in depth about like the mental side effects that you've experienced?
Yeah. Anxiety times 100. Anxiety, which is not fun. It's not fun. It's not fun to be anxious. And anxiety both leads you to not want to have anxiety anymore. And because you experience that emotion with anxiety, it multiplies itself. So you're anxious about being anxious. But the anxiety is every single second of every day. I have it when I wake up at night to go to sleep. Makes the process of taking drugs to get jacked and lean extremely unpleasant. The lack of anxiety has revealed the other predictable psychological effect for me of being on steroids, which is anger and aggression, rage. You get very, very angry, and a special kind of angry. I would call it righteous anger, kind of summed up in the emotional salience of how dare you. Like I'll read an Instagram comment and feel like, how dare you? Like I'll read a comment when I'm on Plenty of Shit, and it's as usual a highly disrespectful comment on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And I fantasize about meeting that person in real life, walking up to them in the gym way too close to their face and be like, say something, you fucking pussy. Say it. Say it, and watch them cower and just relish as they cower. And then as they cower away, hurt them physically so that everyone can see, and then eat their fucking organs. Total crazy shit. Now, these are thoughts that I have like daily, sometimes multiple times a day, randomly. And all I can think about is physical confrontation. Now I feel a combination of nothing and angry frustration.
Wow.
And that's it. I have trouble being grateful. I have trouble being loving. I have trouble with enjoying and giving physical intimacy.
It would seem that in the light of Mike's anxiety and roid rage, the immediate cessation of drug abuse is the obvious move in terms of raising Mike's overall quality of life. Coming off the drugs might also help Mike when it comes to the quality of his conduct when answering critics.
We're all much more fast twitch than Lyle because we actually have the genetics to grow muscle, unlike him. And that is meant as an insult because I don't like Lyle and I want him to feel ashamed of himself and to hate himself. And also in every category of human behavior, I'm tougher than you. I can train closer to failure than you. I can do it for longer. I have more willpower than you. I'm just better than you, Lyle, in almost every way you can measure, except for probably weird masturbation habits and proclivity to play video games. You started this, Lyle. You made fun of me first in a way that was in bad faith and actually tried to hurt my feelings. The only reason I'm saying this is I'm just mirroring it back to you. So anytime you want to be nice, I can be nice to you again, Lyle. But if you want to keep being a cunt, I'm funnier than you, I'm smarter than you, and I'm better at being a cunt than you.
Oh, man.
The fourth and final cost is that, despite the videos Mike makes in which he outlines the harms of abusing, as he calls them, special sports supplements, every video Mike makes is, to an extent, an implicit endorsement of special sports supplements. So whether Mike intends to or not, with every video he communicates, you too can develop a big following like mine, and the riches that come along with it, if you abuse drugs and carry excessive bulk. Yes, Mike makes videos telling people not to abuse special sports supplements, but how can he expect his audience to listen when he obviously doesn't practice what he preaches? He is, after all, Dr. Mike, professor of sports science at Lehman College in the Bronx, as he reminds you in seemingly every video he makes, and for a doctoral expert in the field to juice is tantamount to an endorsement of juice. That is, by the very fact that Mike juices up as a highly educated fitness personality who claims to emphasize rational decision-making, his actions imply that juicing might be a rational choice rather than a childish one. For Mike to exert a sincere positive influence on his audience, and not merely pay a kind of perfunctory lip service to the thought that drug abuse is bad to help him, sleep at night, he ought to stop his drug abuse and downsize immediately. As I outlined, the costs of Mike's juicing are serious. There's a big cost in terms of the damage to Mike's mental and physical health, his intelligence, and the broader message he might convey to his audience, willingly or not, that encourages drug abuse. However, no good cost-benefit analysis focuses on just the costs, or just the benefits. So what I want to examine here is whether or not the benefits of Mike's juicing outweigh the cost. So I'll go through the benefits one by one and explain why they don't. Let's start with the fact that juicing lets Mike satisfy his childish desire to be, in his words, a freak, enormous and ripped to shreds. If this desire matters so much to Mike that he would sacrifice his health to satisfy it, then the indicated course of action is therapy, not drug abuse and excessive caloric intake. Mike seems to have bigorexia, and he's indicated that he thinks the right way to treat it is by leaning into it until the bigorexia somehow evaporates.
So I think it's easy for someone to say before they've really maxed out their potential and really grinded it for a while and really soaked in the aura of jackedness, which is definitely a thing. It's awesome to be big.
Absolutely.
But when you soak in it for long enough, and here's a big one, appreciate what you have accomplished and take the time to really, inside your own head, compliment yourself for. If you feel jacked long enough, I think it fixes some things deep down, maybe forever.
But as with an anorexic who tries to get smaller, Mike's trying to get bigger would likely only feed into his psychological issues rather than treat them. When anorexics want to be smaller, the right approach isn't to give in to the desire, but rather to minimize it by realizing how silly and destructive it is. And there's no good reason why Mike should be seen any differently in this regard to other body dysmorphic folks who sacrifice their health for a particular look. Second, Mike claims that he wants to win an IFBB Pro card. If he downsizes and stops abusing drugs, then he won't be able to pursue this goal, which may make him less happy in the short term. My purpose here isn't to say whether Mike will or won't achieve this goal. However, it's worth pointing out that Mike has been competing as a pharmaceutically enhanced amateur for over a decade now, and hasn't had much by way of success in competitive bodybuilding. Given that, as well as the fact that Mike is now in his early 40s, an outsider might be inclined to doubt that he'll achieve this goal. Mike seems to hold a different view. In an Instagram comment, Mike writes that his bodybuilding genetics might be as good as a staggeringly high 9.9 out of 10. Mike didn't indicate whether or not he was joking. However, given that Mike seems to have Jason Blaha-level delusions about the quality of his physique, I can only assume that he was being sincere.
Who am I compared to Mike Menser? Well, I'm bigger and stronger than Mike Menser. That's it. Yeah. So all of a sudden, that changes the game. I'm more educated than Mike Menser. I know more things than Mike Menser. Yeah. I'm bigger and stronger than Mike Menser. I'm bigger and stronger than Mike Menser. I'm bigger and stronger than Mike Menser. I'm actually just as big as Ryback.
Just as an aside, Mike made this delusional remark about how his physique stacks up against Mike Menser's in a video about the quality of Mike Menser's training advice. Israetel seems not to understand that Menser's appearance is irrelevant to the quality of his advice, and to say that it is just argumentum ad hominem. To my point, there are people much bigger and stronger than Mike Israetel will ever be who train radically differently to him, such as 6-time Mr. Olympia winner Dorian Yates. Does that alone mean that Mike's training advice is wrong? Well, Mike's training advice is wrong, but not because there are bigger and stronger people than him who hold different views. My bigger point is that some goals, regardless of whether or not they're within reach, are silly and not worth pursuing. Mike's goal of winning an IFBB Pro card falls into this category, and the sooner he reckons with that, the better, lest he fall victim to the sunk cost fallacy. Just because Mike's invested his time, money, health, and effort into this project doesn't mean that abandoning it wouldn't be beneficial. The short-term sting of giving it up will be more than made up for by the extra years he stands to gain with his loved ones, and I trust that Mike would be able to put a less drug-addled noggin to use to find a better goal to fall in love with. Let's talk about money, fame, and influence. It's true that Mike might be able to influence or impress more people in the fitness industry by being an obese juicehead. In turn, this probably satisfies Mike's ego and helps him make a bit more money. But what good is that fame and money if it comes at such a huge cost to Mike's mental and physical health? Further, if Mike has a conscience, then he should be able to reflect on the fact that juicing is a degenerate and superficial way to bolster his credibility in the fitness industry. In effect, Mike is making blood money, where a large constituent of his audience only listens to him and parts with money for him because he's decided to sacrifice his health for unnatural bulk. And the fact that there are other narcissistic or sociopathic people doing the same doesn't make Mike's juicing any more justifiable. That's the informal fallacy known as the appeal to the bandwagon. Let's address the final potential benefit, which is that juicing might allow Mike's words to reach more people. The issue here is that, contrary to how Mike might see it, his overall presence in the fitness industry just isn't all that good, or at least not so good that it would justify juicing. It seems that for every sound thing Mike says, like that a sustained caloric deficit causes weight loss or that you should emphasize good technique when lifting weights, he says something equally foolish, like that natural lifters in the general population should probably train more than IFBB Pro bodybuilders. And no, this isn't a straw man. This is a video that Mike actually made 6 months ago, and it really is as bad as it sounds. I debunked his terrible advice in a recent video I made, linked below. For every person whom Mike might discourage from going enhanced, he might encourage another 2 to do the opposite. For every person whose result might be better for leaving more reps in reserve, there might be another 3 who made subpar progress for months or years because their idea of muscular failure was informed by one of Mike's inadequate demonstrations.
Mike Israetel seated leg curls, 0.88 seconds, 0.86 seconds. Like I said, the editing is abysmal. You can't see shit. I don't know if that's deliberate or not. 0.8 seconds. No fucking clue what happened there. 0.76 seconds, 0.75 seconds, 0.76 seconds, 0.9 seconds, and then 1 second. Yes, that says 8 trillion reps in reserve, and you'll see why in just a second.
Wow, you have something to say about that, sir. You could have done 80 trillion more. Hey, Lyle McDonald, fuck you. It's sad. Mike thinks he can take a billion, but he can't.
Thanks to Lyle McDonald for sending me this clip. Here, Mike Israetel is taking Chris Duffin through a set of seated leg curls. Mike tells him he can terminate the set, having identified visually that Chris Duffin's done enough reps. Guy gets another 7.
And then control the slow. Slow, and then down fast. That's it. That's good. Good. One more. Touch. One more. Last one. Touch. Yes. One more. Let's go. And that's it. Very good. Very good. Very good.
My purpose here isn't to provide an exhaustive list of all of Mike's bad advice. I just want to state that if in Mike's mind he's doing something altruistic by roiding, so that his words can reach more people, then not only would he be wrong, he'd also be more narcissistic than I thought. It's called having a god complex, and normally I'd say that I can only speculate on such matters, but I think Mike might have said enough to let on.
Whoever you are out there listening to this, there's a very high probability that I'm much better at making fun of people than you are. As a matter of fact, I can sit face to face with you and slam dunk on your entire fucking life. It'd just be real bad news. Things I wouldn't even feel comfortable saying that are just true about you.
I still want to reach out to them and say, you've never met anyone with as much willpower as me. I don't guarantee that. The statistics are what they are, but I'd bet a decent chunk of change on it. And whatever it is you think you're good at in your life, I'd probably take about a year and become an authority in the field in which you think you're good. I don't know why I fucked up. And if you think you know, you are presuming you know more than me about the thing I'm one of the top experts in the world in, and also the thing I'm literally involved in myself. So whatever ideas you have about how I can improve, just fuck right off.
Given that, 1, there's considerable doubt about whether or not Mike's presence in the fitness industry is a net good. 2, the fact that Mike is putting his mental and physical health at great risk. And 3, the utility that would come from Mike renouncing the abuse of special sports supplements in a way that's actually sincere, that is, by getting off them immediately and letting his audience know. It seems that the rational choice for Mike would be to get off gear and downsize immediately. Because as I demonstrated, Mike's drug abuse and obesity represent a net cost. But nobody says that Mike is interested in making adult decisions other than Mike. Until he downsizes, he'll continue to be seen by rational people as someone with the mentality of a child. Mike's decision to roid and carry excessive bulk is a net cost, and therefore an irrational decision. So if Mike wants to prove that he's as interested in making adult decisions as he claims, then the right move is to stop with his wannabe pro-bodybuilder LARP immediately. I'd be willing to concede that Mike has stronger motivations to roid than most, which might push him toward thinking that his decision to roid is a net benefit. But let's not confuse stronger motivations than most with strong enough motivations. If I imagine a counterfactual where Mike stayed natural and got therapy, then I see someone who may not have quite the same fame and riches, but someone who's happier, healthier, and a better role model overall.